Chris Abel is here, Krisabel. It is time to talk tech and dig into all of the bits and pieces of all the things in the tech world. Maybe it's a great time to go back old school and back to some card games, Chris. That sounds like a good way to go.
That definitely sounds good, especially because the big exciting news is that if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, Canada is now going to become the major headquarters for all things Dungeons and Dragons moving forward. For those of you who may not be aware, Dungeons & Dragons was bought by Wizards of the Coast, a game company that also does Magic the Gathering. And then Wizards of the Coast was bought by Hasbro. And so recently Hasbro decided that there's so many great video game companies in Canada, BioWare, for example, that makes games about Dungeons & Dragons. They thought, let's bring it all together and we'll build and launch a major hub in Montreal. So the new building is going to be erected in spring of next year, 2026. It's going to be called Wizards of the Coast Studios. There's going to be a number of smaller companies brought in. Invoke, which is a Montreal company that's been making video games based on D&D. They're all going to be brought in. And so Montreal is going to become the beating heart for all things Dungeons and Dragons moving forward. If you want to work for them, they're going to be posting 200 new jobs. So if you want to go to Montreal and work on D&D, hey, you know what? That's now possible.
Amazing. Nerds Unite. Ryan O'Donnell will love that conversation too. I did not know that they had bought Magic the Gathering, Chris, too. That's also quite exciting. I guess you can kind of see how it'd be such a fit.
A big part of it is that Montreal has, for years, Hasbro has always told me, been such a great city when it comes to board games. They love Monopoly there, for example. So there is a really fantastic work culture. And so Hasbro is deciding, look, this is the best place. We can bring together all these fantastic people. A lot of them are Canadians, and that's going to be the way in terms of developing the future of Dungeons & Dragons. I'm thrilled that has become a Canadian thing. Dungeons & Dragons for me was very important. As a teenager sitting around imagining going off on adventures and meeting remarkable creatures turned out to be very aspirational. So that as an adult, I suddenly realized in my job, oh, wait, I can actually do that. And so it's been a great pleasure to actually kind of realize those very sense of adventures and wild things back then.
We're going to have to save the what kind of creatures have you met chasing your career for another day, because there's been a few creatures, I'm sure. Okay, let's talk about tech. This is kind of cool stuff. New wireless tech can track your heartbeat.
Yes. Well, it's funny because last week you mentioned that one of the issues about all these new features coming out with earbuds and smartwatches that now have the ability to track your heartbeat and look for things, that may be an issue. You had mentioned that, the problem is it has to be touching your skin. And so the moment you take off your watch to have a shower,
I don't like to wear them at nighttime.
Yeah, you mentioned that last week. So it's great for me to kind of say, well, guess what? There's now a company, University of California. They have developed new technology that instead they can use wireless fidelity signals, Wi-Fi, the same signal you use to access the internet, can now be used to monitor your heartbeat. And so without you having to wear anything, just that wireless signal that's floating around your home, everywhere you go, everything that you do, the signal can monitor your heartbeat and therefore always be able to monitor your health in terms of hypertension and things like that. They've developed it. In fact, they've gotten to the point where they're giving it a fancy name. They're calling it Pulse-Fi instead of Wi-Fi, Pulse-Fi, because it actually monitors the pulses of your heartbeat. And I'm sure we'll get announcements probably next year that, companies like whether it's Samsung or Apple, somebody's going to license this technology.
Yeah, or just buy it outright. But can you imagine that if you were in your house and everywhere that you were, you could know that, especially anybody who has heart trouble, like heart attacks, that you could know that you could be alerted if anything went wrong as long as you were in that zone.
It's fantastic, yes.
Cool stuff. All right. This is gross, Chris. A little disappointed in the grossness of this, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of awesome. You have some innovation in fine dining here. I'm curious. It's less about tech, more about the curiosity, I think.
Well, I'll let you figure it out. So it's a restaurant called Alchemist in Copenhagen. And when you arrive, you'll get brought into a planetarium-like theater. The restaurant actually has their own special effects team that they have hired so that you've got this planetarium-like dome with 360-degree visuals and all sorts of practical special effects that they do in order to present all these really wonderful chef creations. And so they don't call them dishes, they call them impressions. And so one impression that comes out is there's a new version of yogurt that's ant-based yogurt. There's a species of ants that if you mix it in with the yogurt, it actually improves the transition from milk turning into yogurt. That's one dish that they're offering. Another one impression is a large silicone eyeball, and it actually looks astonishingly realistic, even though it's very, very large. And you're given a spoon, you can dip the spoon into the iris, into the center of the pupil, and that's where you're going to find the food that you can consume and you can eat. Another one, you bring out a spoon that has a large silicone tongue on it, and they've put strips and strips of interesting little foodie items where you can be able to lick and taste and try out throughout the evening.
One of the things inside the eyeball is pickled chanterelles, which I had to look up just to be honest. Is that I didn't realize that was mushrooms, but pickled mushrooms, like
Yeah.
that is the most wonderful sounding thing. But also, I get how for some people that would be the worst nightmare of a food of all things. This is really good. Talk about the bread.
So that's the other cool item. They have partnered with MIT. So we've got a huge tech institution that is developing a form of aerogel bread. And the reason is that this would then be a bread that you can actually eat in outer space. So it's not just for astronauts, but we have new generations of space tourists who are going into outer space. And so when you're up there, you can actually have a special bread, a special cookie. They're working on all sorts of cool things that normally may not taste very exciting here on Earth, but will give you a whole brand new adventure when you're out in outer space.
Well, if you're sitting there and you're like, I have a hankering for some ant-based yogurt ice cream sandwich, this is the place to go. You're going to have to travel for it. Thanks, Chris.
No problem. Thank you.
At Real Chris Abel, RealKrisAbel. On all of the socials, you can find Chris and his website, his YouTube channel, and more. To learn more about those incredibly weird and cool tech things. That Wi-Fi thing is kind of cool for heart rate.